Hey guys, it's Jen here from Nails by Jen. Welcome back to my channel. If this is your first time to my channel, welcome to my channel. So today's video is going to be another watch me work video. I'm actually going to be doing a full set on this gal. I'm going to be cutting off her old nails because they are just super grown out. They are starting to twist and turn, and I've tried to alter them as much as I can, but after a while you just have to start fresh. So I'm going to be starting fresh, like I said, and creating a whole full set, and then I'm going to be showing you guys how to create this really simple marble design. So if this is something you're interested in, stick around, keep watching. As always, don't forget to click that like and subscribe for me. If you have any questions or comments, leave them in the comment section below, and let's get started. Alright guys, so I'm starting off by taking my big clippers and I'm going to clip off the nails, the length. So I always flip my clients' hands upside down so that I can keep an eye on the hyponychium because I do not want to end up cutting through the hyponychium. So as you can see, her nails are kind of gnarly underneath. I have over the time of doing her fills, I have filed out her natural nail underneath to try to straighten them out and take out the hooks. And we were chatting and I asked her if she remembered when the last time was that I did a new set on her, and we both came to the conclusion that we are pretty certain that it was in the spring. So she was well overdue. Generally, I like to do a new set on her about every fourth or fifth fill, but we just didn't do it for some reason, so it is well overdue and it is time. So I'm just going through, like I said, and I'm clipping off the length, and then I'm going to go in with my EFILE, and I'm using my SCARLET EFILE from MELODYSUSIE, and I'm going to take down the bulk of the nail. So my favorite way to remove rhinestones is to use an old carbide bit. This one is a skinnier cylinder. It's not the fat cylinder. And as you can see, I have her put her left hand at the top of the screen here in front of the other hand. And that's just to prevent if any rhinestones happen to fly back towards her, they're going to be blocked by her hand. And yeah, I'm just going to go in with this carbide bit. So that large rhinestone was not a Swarovski. It was just a plastic rhinestone. So that's getting cut through quite easily, but the rest of them are Swarovski. So they can tend to fly. So it is best if you have your client put their hand there. I just find it so much easier than using nippers. I find sometimes when I use nippers, my hand can slip with the nippers, and I have actually stabbed a client with the nippers. I did it once and that was it. I was like, I'm never using nippers again. So I just have this old carbide bit and I just use this every time I'm doing rhinestone removal. So next, I'm actually going to go in now and take down the bulk of the acrylic. I'm going to take it down to a very thin layer. And my favorite bit that I have recently been using is this carbide bit here. So this is actually a 2X carbide bit, and I am obsessed with the shape of it. I don't know how I have not been using this shape of a carbide bit for so long. I've literally been just using the cylinder ones for so many years, like 13, 12 years, and now I've finally started using this one, and I don't think I could ever go back to just using the cylinder bits anymore because this shape helps to get in really nice and close up into that proximal nail fold area. So I'm going to go through all 10 fingers and debulk. Alright guys, so the next step is to take my cuticle pusher and I am pressing back the proximal nail fold. This is not pushing back the cuticles like we often hear people say. So you can see as I'm scraping that nail plate and I'm pressing back the proximal nail fold, you can all of a sudden see sort of white stuff, right? That is the cuticle. So I'm not pushing back the cuticles, I'm pushing back the proximal nail fold so that I can expose the nail plate and expose all of that cuticle. And then I'm going to actually use a cuticle bit with my EFILE, and that's what I will use to actually remove the cuticle. So once I have done this on all 10 fingers, I'm going to go in with my hand file, and this is where I'm going to be roughening up any of the areas that are still shiny. So any of the natural nail that has shine to it, I want to take that shine away. I'm also going to be using this hand file to remove any little bits of lifting that are left on the nail, and I am going to be forming her nails. Now you guys are probably going to think I'm crazy, but I actually prefer to leave her natural nail square at the free edge. I do find that when I'm forming her nails, I have an easier time forming them if I do leave a little bit of free edge and I do it square. So yes, when you do this, you will see a little bit of her natural nail through the clear acrylic because I am going to build her nails in clear. But if you wanted to cover that up, you would just have to use a cover acrylic or a camouflage acrylic, and then you wouldn't end up seeing that. So now when it comes to her thumbnails do grow extremely crooked. You can see even just by looking at them right here, they grow quite crooked. So I end up actually filing off the inside corner of her thumbnail because when I go to put the form on, I actually have to put the form facing the other direction or pointing in the other direction to give the illusion that her nail is straight. So you will see later on, I actually did not film for some reason putting the form on the thumb. I don't know if the camera cut out, I can't remember, but you will see when I do put the acrylic on that the inside corner of her thumbnail is missing, and that is why. So as I mentioned earlier, I am now going to go in with my little EFILE bit here, and I am going to be removing all of the cuticle. You can see all of that white stuff that is flaking off. That is the cuticle. So this bit here is my favorite bit for this. It is the Erica's micro taper. I get it at Canada Nail Supplies. So I am using my EFILE on about 12,000 RPMs, and I am just making sure to keep the EFILE bit very flat to the nail. Now you can do both reverse and forward motion with your EFILE. I choose to just keep it on the forward motion the entire time, and I just ask my clients to bend their fingers. So as you can see, I'm having her bend her hand and her fingers so that I can go up along the left side of her fingers, which is my right side. Once I'm done the thumb, I go back to the pinky, and then I will go down her right side, which is my left side, and I will finish off the nail and just getting all of that cuticle removed. The other thing that you will notice is as I'm doing this, it is pushing up that proximal nail fold a little bit more. That way I can get in with my nippers and I can clip off all of that white dead skin. It just kind of rolls the skin back a little bit. You can see right there, it's just rolling that skin back. And then I will go in with my nippers and I will clip off basically anything that is white, anything that is dead, that is sticking up or hanging off her nail or her skin. So the last couple of steps before I start applying my forms and my acrylic is to cleanse the nail. So I use a custom mix of 99% alcohol and 100% acetone, and it is a 50-50 mix, and I'm just scrubbing it into the nail with a brush. And then I'm going to apply 2 coats of my protein bond, and you guys will see that the brush does look different. I mention this in every video because I do decant the protein bond out of the little tiny white bottle and I put it into a bigger bottle just because I have a hard time using the smaller bottle. I just don't like the original bottle that it comes in. So if you're wondering why the brush looks different, that is simply why. So when I'm doing a full set and I'm going to be applying forms, I realized here in this moment that I want to apply the forms before I apply the protein bond because I don't want the protein bond to sit too long on the nail before I start applying the acrylic. So I generally do prefer to put on my forms first. I had just forgotten and had already started putting the protein bond on a couple of the nails and then realized, oh shoot, I need to put my forms on. So here I'm going to be applying the forms and I am just going to do one hand at a time. I don't form all 10 fingers. She is a client who is my last client of the day, and we oftentimes listen to music from her phone and she's on her phone doing stuff. So I allow her to use her left hand or the hand without the forms on her phone, and I just am going to apply them to the right hand, and then I'm going to go in with the protein bond and apply all of her acrylic and everything before moving on to her left hand. So I'm going to be cutting out the little area for the hyponychium. I kind of went off camera here, but you can sort of see at the bottom of the screen that I'm just taking a small pair of scissors and I'm just cutting a U shape in where that hyponychium is because I want the form to slide nicely around the shape of her nail and not be hurting her where the hyponychium is, not be poking it or pinching it in there. So I'm just kind of popping the form open a little bit so that I can get it on without the edges of the form sticking to her finger. And I'm telling her to relax her finger, as you can see there. And I'm just getting the form on, and we are going to be using the entire length of these forms. So I do not want to pinch them too tight at the very tip of the form because I'm not creating a stiletto nail. I am creating a long coffin shaped nail, but as you can see, I pinched this one way too tight. So I ended up having to redo it. So I'm just going to get the forms on all 5 of these fingers, and then I'm going to apply my protein bond, and then we're going to get into the acrylic application. So what I'm going to do is place a fairly large size bead of acrylic at the tip of her nail, and I'm going to cover the tip and pull it up just a little bit onto her natural nail, and then you're going to see I keep tilting her finger downwards, and that just allows the acrylic to flow naturally towards the tip onto that form. And then I just make sure I take the belly of my brush and I'm pushing up those side walls just so that I can create that shape. So you will kind of see on the left side of the screen her pinky nail. It looks really crazy because I actually decided when I started to do her nails that I was going to start at the cuticle area, and I tried to just do it in one large bead, and I don't know why I did that because I usually prefer to build the tips first. So that one looks a little bit wonky, but what I prefer to do is build out the tip first, then I can take the form off, and then I can build the rest of the nail, build the apex, build the rest of the structure. But it's basically like I'm creating a glued on tip, and then I'm going to build the nail on top of that. All right, so now that I have removed the forms, now I'm going to build the structure of the nail. So again, I'm starting off with quite a large bead because she's got a very long nail. I'm pressing it into that proximal nail fold area, and I'm just patting it in very carefully, not to get any of it onto the skin. And again, I've got her finger pointed towards the table, so you can see the acrylic starts to run naturally down the nail. And I am pretty sure that it takes me about 5 or 6 beads of acrylic to build these nails. Years ago, I used to use a product line called Elite, and it was my absolute favorite acrylic line. And I used to be able to do more of a 1 ball method, or maybe 2, 3 max, even on long nails. But with the Young Nails acrylic, I just find I have to work with more beads and building up the structure. That's just how it works for me. And again, you just want to be careful not to be oversaturating the skin and wiping the brush all over the skin. I do work with a little bit of a wetter bead with the Young Nails acrylic because that was what was recommended to me to prevent getting bubbles. Because when I first started working with it, I was used to my other product line, which then I ended up getting a bunch of bubbles in the Young Nails. So you can see here I'm tilting the nail down again and just allowing that acrylic to flow naturally towards the tip. So just let the acrylic work with you. If you watch any of the Young Nails videos, they talk about that often, just allowing the acrylic to work for you. Sorry, I said with you earlier, but allow it to work for you. Alright guys, so now it is time to go in with my hand file and shape the nails. So this is where it really pays off if you take your time to sculpt the nails and really work on that shape so you don't have a ton of filing to do. So on this pinky nail, I had a lot more filing to do than the rest of the nails because, like I said, when I first started building the nails, I just did this one all wonky and weird. So I did have a lot more work on the pinky nail than the rest of the nails. But again, like I said, it just really pays off if you can take the time to build the nails really well. You won't have a lot of filing to do. So I'm just going to go through all 10 fingers. I'm going to use my hand file and shape them all up, and then I'm going to smoothen them out with a buffer. Alright, so now that all of the nails have been shaped, they have been buffed, and they have been cleansed of the dust. So what I've got on my palette here is some marbling. So I've got some Young Nails Stain Resistant. I've also got some Madame Glam Perfect White. So unfortunately, I did not film this part. I apologize, but I have done this in other videos. You can check out my other marbling videos. So what I've done is just taken some of the Young Nails Stain Resistant and I've drawn a line with it, and then I've also painted on a line of the white, and I've just zigzagged through that so that I could create this marble effect. So now what I'm going to do is add a thin layer of the Young Nails Stain Resistant, and this is just going to help the marbling spread slightly. And then I'm going to take a flat brush and I'm going to scoop up underneath that marbled white and clear on the palette. Again, you guys, I'm sorry that that was not in frame, but I do have several videos that show you different ways of marbling, and this is one of my favorite ways. And I'm just basically going to drag that white through the nail. I'm doing all the nails just slightly different, putting the marbling in different areas, and I do one nail at a time and get them in the light to cure. So I must have realized that I didn't film the marbling on the palette the first time, so I did film it this time here when I was reloading up my palette. So as you could see, I did a little line of that Young Nail Stain Resistant. Now I'm just going in with some of the white, and then I'm just going to take a dotting tool and zigzag through it and just kind of blend it and move it all around. And that's just going to be able to create that marbling effect so that when I go and scoop up underneath, the white and the clear are already slightly marbled. And lastly, I'm going to add some gold flakes. So these are from Born Pretty. This is not to be mistaken for gold leaf. Gold leaf does look different than the gold flakes. I find it a lot easier to work with the gold flakes because they are already kind of chopped up and they're just already in the jar, whereas the gold leaf, you have to kind of pry apart those pieces and they're kind of finicky to work with, so I generally gravitate towards this. So I'm just tapping the gold flake into the dispersion layer of the gel polish and the Young Nails Stain Resistant. And yes, I am using my finger, and no, we should not do that. We should have a glove on if we are going to do that. But I always say to you guys, please do as I say and not as I do, because you can obviously cause contact dermatitis and all kinds of allergic reactions if you're constantly touching the gel, even if it's the dispersion layer, because that is still uncured gel. So I'm going to do all 10 fingers and apply the gold flake, and then I'm simply going to top coat. So I did 2 coats of the Young Nails Stain Resistant, and the reason I did 2 coats was just because of those gold flakes. I didn't want them to be poking out or anything like that. And that is it, you guys. Look at these beauties. Alright, you guys, so that is it for another Watch Me Work video. I really enjoy doing these for you guys as usual, and I apologize, my heat just kicked in my house, so there's some crazy sound in the background, but I am just finishing up editing this video. I'm loving how these turned out. White marble with gold is always, always, always going to stand out as a favorite for me. So I hope that you enjoyed this video. If you did, guys, please share it with someone else, and as always, have an amazing day.